Hi guys, this is Stephanie with My Simply Creative Designs. I'm super excited because today I got my June card kit in the mail from the Stamps of Life. And I'm really excited to share with you a card that I made and show you how I made it. So today in my card kit, my happy mail came and I got the You Got This collection card kit. And this is really cute because it goes along with the stamp and die set that the Stamps of Life came out with earlier this month, that is cookies, and I love cookies. So I was really excited once I got this to think about how I could create a fun and exciting card. So this is a stamp and the die set, and on here is a heart and two leaves that came with the die set. And this is the paper pad that came with the set, and on it it shows the different colors. And in the card kit set, you also get some cardstock. There's also 4 sheets of white cardstock that I've already taken and cut into card bases so that I have those to use in my cards. So next, if you look in the paper pad, there's all these different designs, and some of the designs go along with the die sets. So I've cut out some different ones that go along with it, and these help to make some super easy cards. So today, what I decided to do was think about my most favorite kind of cookies. And my favorite kind of cookies are the sugar cookies that have the frosting on them. And I love sprinkles. So I decided to take this card set and turn it into a generic hugs, kisses, and cookies, because I just love that phrase on this set, card. So I'm going to show you how I made this card today. So the first thing that I did was to take a sheet of the ginger snap paper, which that comes in this card kit, and I took the base card die set. So Stephanie always talks about that this is her favorite and most often used die. So I have the card base, which that's what I cut for my base of my card, my white card base. And then there's a separate set that you can buy that has 2 rectangles, and the 2 rectangles fit inside each other, and that makes the front part of your card. And the great thing about these are that they're a little bit smaller than the A2 card size, so they layer perfectly on your card. So those were the 3 pieces that I used to be able to make this part of my card. So I used the big piece to make my card base. I used the biggest rectangle cut out of ginger snap cardstock. And then in my paper pad, I flipped through to find the yellow heart paper. And it's on the back of the diagonal stripe. So I tore that out. And I used the smaller card die to cut out the rectangle, and that was the base of my card. So after I did that, I decided that my inspiration was the cookies with the frosting. I love when I go into the store and they have those big sugar cookies during the holidays that have the yummy frosting on the top with the sprinkles. So that was sort of my inspiration for making these cookies on this plate. So the next thing I did was I went to my stamp set, and I only have the basic stamp set that comes in the kit, and I decided I was going to use the outline of the stamp and stamp it. So I took my mini Misty and a sheet of just scrap cardstock that was left over in the powdered sugar, and I'm going to stamp the circle that is the cookie outline so that I have somewhere to put my sprinkles. So the first time I did this, I did it with the archival ink because originally I was going to color in the sprinkles, but I found a technique that I think works better. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the chocolate ink so that it will look more similar to the cookies that I'm looking for. So I'm going to take my chocolate ink and I'm going to ink up my stamp. I'm just going to make that outline of the cookie. So as a demonstration, I'm just going to make one to show you how I did it. But for the card, you're going to need to make 3 of them if you want to make it like I did. So after I stamped the outline of the cookie, then I went back in my stamp stash and I found that I have this Sprinkles stencil. And I think this is from maybe like a birthday kit set or some other class that I purchased at some point. So you can go back on the website and you can look and see if you can find that. But this one is a lot of fun. I've used it for several different things. So now I'm going to take the Sprinkles stencil, and before I stencil, I like to tape down my piece that I'm working on so that it doesn't move. And I also like to tape down the stencil so that it doesn't move. So I tape down where I'm working, and then I'm going to tape the stencil over the top of it. And what I like about this is I can move the stencil around to make sure that I'm going to get lots of sprinkles on my cookie. So I'm going to tape that down. And then I took the Stamps of Life markers and I looked at the paper pad to see what different colors there were that I was going to be using. So I already know that I used the yellow, which in this case is Sunshine. I know I don't have any Sunshine colored markers, but I have Banana in there and that's close to it. And then also I was going to pull in some greens and pinks into my card. So I can use candy, bubblegum, guava, and kiwi. So the basis of my card colors are going to be pink, yellow, and green. So I got those out from my marker sets, and I started by just kind of going around the cookie, and I started with the darker pink, the guava, and all I'm going to do is just color them in. So there's a lot of different ways that you can color in the sprinkles, but markers like this are a really easy way to do it. So if you tape it down, then you can just hold the stencil in place so that it doesn't move around while you're coloring in your sprinkles. And sprinkles are like my #1 favorite thing. So when I thought of this idea, I was super excited because sprinkle cookies are the best. So I just went around and I added some pink and green, and then I'm going to go back and add some yellow. And then on the edges, some of them have where the sprinkle goes over, but I didn't want to go too far, so I just literally colored in the sprinkle up to the edge of where the border is for the cookie. And then I'm going to go back with some lighter pink and color in some of the other spots. I didn't want it to be too overwhelming with the same color all over, so I tried to break it up a little bit. So you're going to do this with 3 cookies. I'm just doing the one as a sample to show you how I did it. So once I've colored that in, and I'm sure that I covered all the area with the sprinkles, like I missed one little one right here. Then after you've done that, you're going to take and you're going to peel your stencil off, and you'll see that you have a cookie that now has sprinkles all over it. So this is like when you look at the cookie, this is the icing part. So we have the icing part, and I'm going to go to my die cut machine, and I'm going to take on my die set, there's 2 dies for the cookies. This is going to be my base of the cookie, so the sugar cookie part, and this smaller piece is going to be the piece that I need to cut out my frosting for my cookie. So I need to make sure before I do that that I line this up with the border of my icing. And you're going to see when I cut this out that it's going to leave a little bit of a line from where my stamp was, and that's okay. On the other ones I cut it off. So I like to tape mine down so that it doesn't get wonky in my machine and accidentally cut off things I don't want it to. So now I'm going to go to my die cut machine. I'm going to cut this piece out, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to make the base. So once you've gone to your die cut machine and you cut this piece out, you're going to notice when you unstick it from the tape that there are some little areas here that are colored. And the first time when I did it with the archival ink, it was really dark. So I'm going to leave this and see what I think when we put it on our cookie base. So again, you're going to cut that out 3 times on your cookies. And that is the frosting part of our sugar cookie. So when we look at these, it's this part of the cookie. So now I'm going to go and take a piece of the ginger snap cardstock and I'm going to cut out the base, the sugar cookie part of the cookie. I tried this with ivory colored cardstock earlier today and it turned out cute, but I thought that the ginger snap gave it a little bit more of a difference in look, and I like the contrast. So now I've got the cookie base and we're going to be putting it on the frosting, and so you can see here that when I put that up to the base of the cookie, that is a little bit dark and it kind of takes away from the look of the frosting. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to go around and cut that dark color off. I suppose probably what you could do is not even stamp the cookie outline, and you could just put a bunch of sprinkles on and then go back and cut out the smaller die and save yourself from having to cut around the edge. I like being able to sort of control where I was putting the sprinkles for the cookie, but you could also do it the other way. So after I cut this off, I'm going to see what it looks like on my cookie base. So I cut those pieces off, and I'm going to show you. You kind of have to take and turn it a little bit to make sure that you have it lined up correctly, and I line mine up different ways on each cookie just to make them a little bit different and unique. So here's my frosting with the sprinkles, and here's the base of my cookie. So I liked the look of this, but I wanted to add a little bit of dimension. So I went and got my mini inker and in Ginger Snap to add a little bit of dimension to the cookie base. So I just took my little inker and I went around just very slightly on the edge of the Ginger Snap and added a little bit of highlight there so that it would pop more off of the paper. So not too much, just enough to give it a little bit of a border and an edge so that I could see that there were cookies almost like it had been finished in the oven, and the edges that you look for to know that your cookie's done. So here's my finished piece that's shaded, and so you'll look and you'll see that there's a little bit more contrast here, and I just preferred that for my cookies. So I would have done this 3 times for mine, and then you're just going to take your glue and glue the frosting to the base of your cookie, and you do this 3 times to get 3 of the frosted sugar cookies. So after you've gone ahead and done that, the next thing I did was I wanted to create on my card a plate, to put these cookies on a plate like I would if I were giving them to a friend or if I had somebody come over to my house. But the problem was that I did not have a plate to cut out. But I started thinking, I realized that what I did have was circle dies. So these are the stitched circle dies that the Stamps of Life came out with a long time ago. And I took the largest circle die and I cut that out with the stitched edges on it. Now there's some that have dotted edges and there's some that just have plain edges, so you could do any of those, but I liked the look of the stitched rectangle. So when I cut that out, I ended up with a circle so that I had the look of the plate, but it looked sort of plain. So after I cut that out, I was thinking, how could I make a pattern sort of like on a plate where you would have a decorative edge? And I was digging through my stash trying to find something that I had that was circle. I didn't want to add polka dots because I already had these hearts in the background. I was looking for something that had more of a heart shape to it. So I went and found my circle word dies, and I have like a big stash of different ones, and there's 3 parts to these dies, and inside normally there would be words like thank you or happy birthday or miss you. but I didn't want to put words in there. I just wanted to create this border. So what I did was I found one that I had that had hearts on the border. And on these dies, if I had used this outer circle piece, it would have cut out a circle with hearts on the border. So I left that outside piece off and I just used this part that has the hearts on it. So these hearts would coordinate with my background. So then I took my circle die that I'd already cut out and I laid the die with the hearts on it inside of it. So I decided that I wanted this little edge to show sort of the edge of a plate. And I ran it through my die cut machine, and when it came out, this is what it looked like. So I think it looks really cool to have the coordinating heart border on the plate that goes with the hearts on the background paper for my card. So if you don't have a plate die, which I don't know that the Stamps of Life has a plate die necessarily, I could create this using a circle. Now, if you don't have a circle die, that's okay. You can always take like the lid of a container, like a lid like this right here, and you could trace it and cut that out by hand. You don't have to have every single die to be able to create these designs. So after I cut that circle out and I had my plate, then I started figuring out how I wanted to place my cookies on my plate. So when I started, I'm going to start gluing this now. I'm going to now glue my yellow heart paper to the background of the Ginger Snap cardstock. And create my little cookie scene here. So then as I was putting this on my card, I really liked it, but decided that it needed something to anchor the card. So I went in my stash and I keep a bunch of stashes of all of my scraps of other pattern paper that I've used. And this is a Stamps of Life one from one of the previous sets, maybe a year or two ago. One of the pattern papers had sort of this horizon colored watercolor piece, but on the back of it was some dots in candy color, little polka dots. So when I put that on the card, I felt like it made it a little bit more grounded. So I'm going to move it up a little bit because I'm going to put my little banners down here and my little note to my friend on here. So that's where we're going to put our piece, and I want to make sure I get it straight. So I'm going to get a pencil and I'm going to mark where I want to make sure that I put my card, my rectangle back to. Just going to mark it right there. I'm going to put some glue on the back and then I'm going to glue it to my card. So the great thing about these card kits is that you can use all new things from the kit, or you can incorporate things that you've already got in your collection. And that's really what Stephanie recommends, is going and using things that you already have, that you've already bought, and using them over and over again with your new things. So I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to adhere my plate, my cookie plate. And the great thing about this art glitter glue is the hold is amazing on it, and it dries clear. So if you get things on the front of your card like I just did, when it dries you will not see it. So there's my plate, and now we're going to add the cookies to my plate. So I made 3. You can make 3, 5, 2. I think 5 would be a little bit big with these cards. 3 seems to fit this size plate pretty well. So I'll lay out my cookies, and I think on these 2 I'm going to pop them up a little bit to give the card a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to take a piece of adhesive foam. I got this on Amazon, and I'm going to just adhere it to the back, and then it will give my cookies on my plate a little bit of dimension so that they look like some of them are standing up, some of them are laying down flat on the plate. It'll just give it a little bit of extra oomph and character. So I've been a member of the Stamps of Life stamp, die set, and card kit for a really long time. I've been using these kits since I think the second month or third month that Stephanie came out with them many years ago. And I'm a teacher, so this is sort of my thing to do when I'm home from school, and it kind of relaxes my mind, but it lets me still be artistic and creative. And so this is a way for me to teach others how to create with their card sets too. So after I glued that down, I really liked it, but I decided first I needed a message and then I needed to add a little bit more to complete the card. So again, I went back into my stash because I looked at the messages on the stamp set, and it had hugs, kisses, and cookies, which I thought was perfect with the hearts and the cookies on here. So I decided that I was going to take this stamp and I was going to put it on the bottom half of the card. So I went back into my shaped dies, and in the scalloped rectangles, I took the smallest scallop rectangle. And again, I went back to my stash and found a scrap of candy colored cardstock, which coordinated with some of the sprinkles in my cookie frosting. So I went and cut that, and then I stamped the phrase hugs, kisses, and cookies in the candy colored ink onto my rectangle. So now I'm just going to adhere it down here at the bottom of the card. Just make sure I get it on there straight. And then I decided like the right side of the card sort of needed a little something extra. So I went and found my planner to stamp dies, and in there are some little tiny flag banners. So I decided to cut out two of the smaller ones and one of the larger ones out of some scraps of cardstock that I had from other projects in the kiwi, the ginger snap, and the candy polka dot. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down now. I laid them out to make sure that they would all fit down here at the bottom. And I'm just going to line them up with the corner of my paper. And I'm going to overlap them a little bit. So as you can see on the back of this, it looks like it says Party On. So that was from another die set or card kit set from several months ago. So the great thing about these, you can overlap them a little bit. You can line them up right next to each other. They just add a little bit of extra finishing touch to your card. So this is the finished front of my card, and now I'm just going to glue it to the card base, and that will finish up this card. And there you have it. So hugs, kisses, and cookies. And then I have my little plate of frosted and iced sugar cookies, which are my favorite. And then I can put my little sentiment on the inside of the card when I'm ready to give it to somebody. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and you can follow my channel and subscribe to learn how to make more cards with products from the Stamps of Life.